The biggest problem that I see with amateur golfers that are struggling with ball striking is the same move at the start of the downswing, and it's an element of apprehension of trying to get to the back of the golf ball by trying to get this sort of feeling of smothering the ball. But the problem is with that type of move is that the upper body tends to lead the lower body. And when you move this way, what starts to happen is that your trail shoulder comes up and over. All of a sudden you're going to be sort of more vulnerable to swinging over the top. It creates a casting move. And although you might find that you're better at hitting the ground where you want to, so if you do this type of movement, you might go, well, I hit it every time. But obviously from a sequence perspective, it just doesn't work. Now, a really good exercise I've talked about in the past is actually to get golfers to hit more through the ball if you actually move the golf ball incrementally further and further forward in the stance. So for me as a right-handed golfer, further and further towards my left foot. The only problem with that essentially comes very much down to, well, does it change that sort of narrative of how you're going to try and hit the ground? So for a golfer who, let's say we take this golf ball here as an example in the centre of the stance, who hits it this way, if you ask them to move the ball further forward, they're still going to move that way. They're just going to move even more with the head towards that lead side, which is not what we want. So what I've been experimenting recently with a few students of mine that have come for lessons is actually to sort of try and hit a few shots where you move the ball back in the stance. Now, admittedly, not quite as far back as the way I set the golf balls up originally, but if we bring them in, so if the ball is representing, the centre ball represents the centre of my stance. So if I move it slightly right of centre for a right-handed golfer, all of a sudden they can't do this type of motion because it it produces too much steepness. The club would just get stuck in the ground. So all of a sudden that golfer becomes a little more susceptible of turning behind the ball and sort of keeping the head back and trying to let the arms swing through, the type of sequence that we're looking for. So you might hit a few shots like that and you might kind of be quite surprised in terms of the good contact, good club path, and also decent elevation, although the ball's further back. And then what you do is you then incrementally move the ball further forward, but you do it with the same motion. So what we don't want is we don't want this. What we want is this type of motion. Okay, so it's more of a linear movement. So as I'm moving my pelvis towards my lead side, keeping my head fixated on the back of the golf ball or on the back of the area where I'm going to strike the ground, and it eliminates this type of problem. So if you are somebody, whether it's with your irons, your long irons, or even with the driver, who has that over-the-top tendency, then what I would personally suggest that you do is experiment with moving the golf ball a little bit further back in the stance. So as you move the ball further back in your stance, you'll lose that inclination to want to go this way, and it will make you want to keep your head back. And like I say, because you'll sort of move more this way, you'll notice it'll improve your sequence. And then what you do is as you progress this golf ball further and further forward, you want to have that same feeling of keeping your head back, but you just need to shift your pelvis, or if you like your weight, more towards that lead side. And then if you're brave enough, you can start to move the ball further forward and do the same move again. Because again, you're starting to get that feeling then of back to the target and then rotating through the golf ball. So again, it's just a really simple tip for the type of golfer who might be battling difficulties with changing the first move in the downswing and an inclination to want to, should we say, sort of come over the top and come down a bit too steep. And if you can kind of just grow in confidence of controlling the ground, keeping your back to the target and use your hands, and then progressively start to move more and more to the left, you might just find it'll make a big difference. I'll see you guys again soon.